Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. He closed his eyes to die, and when he opened them, he saw a human soldier holding him. The ground shook beneath her as the last of her strength abandoned her body, her long ears twitching at sounds she could no longer fully hear. Smoke curled around the battlefield, thick enough to taste, heavy with iron and fire. She felt the sharp edges of regret gnaw at her chest as her vision blurred and narrowed. Her hand twitched toward the dirt, reaching for a weapon she could no longer lift, and she thought, "This is how it ends, in silence, in dust, in defeat." The stars above had dimmed, the air was too thick, and death felt very near. She closed her eyes, waiting for that still, inevitable nothing. When they opened again, the universe had played some strange trick. Instead of darkness, she saw the flash of a visor, the glare of human armor, and a face far too close to hers. A man's voice cut through the smoke with the rough certainty of someone used to giving orders. "I've got you." His arms wrapped around her, as though she weren't the sworn enemy of his people, as though she weren't supposed to be bleeding into the ground. His grip was warm, unyielding, and very, very human. She blinked, trying to make sense of it. "Is this the afterlife?" she croaked, her voice raw. "Because if it is, I demand a refund." The soldier gave her a look from beneath his helmet, half amused, half exasperated. "You're welcome, by the way. Most people say thank you when they're saved." "Saved?" she coughed, her lips curling into a wry smile. "You call this saved? I can't even feel my toes. For all I know, you've stolen them." "I'll give them back once you've earned them," he shot back, adjusting his hold so her weight didn't drag him down. She was lighter than he'd expected, but there was a strength in her frame even in collapse, the coiled resilience of someone who had refused to die until now. Her long ears flicked toward him, twitching at the tone of his words. "Strange. Your kind usually prefers to shoot first and make bad jokes later." "Don't worry," he said. "I can do both." And then, with an awkward grin, he ducked his head as a streak of light blasted past them. "But right now, how about we try not dying?" She wanted to laugh, but it came out as a wheeze. The battlefield stretched around them, broken machines smoldering, the ground littered with fragments of armor from both their peoples. She had expected to be another piece of debris. Instead, here she was, being carried in the arms of a man who should have left her behind. "You're insane," she murmured, fighting the pull of unconsciousness. "Probably," he admitted, "but if I were sane, I wouldn't be hauling you out of here, would I?" Her eyelids fluttered, heavy. "You'll regret this." He tightened his grip as if daring fate to try. "Regret's tomorrow's problem. Right now we walk." Her ears twitched again, but her lips curved faintly upward. "Or you walk. I dangle. Not very dignified." "Better dangling than dead," he said, adjusting her so her head rested against his chest plate. "And hey, try not to bleed on my uniform. It's regulation." She chuckled weakly at that, a sound that surprised even herself. War had been nothing but fire and fury for so long that humor felt foreign, almost dangerous. Yet here it was, alive in the absurdity of her enemy, carrying her like she mattered. Around them, explosions cracked, the distant whine of alien artillery splitting the air. He moved carefully but quickly, ducking behind shattered transport husks, weaving through smoke that burned his throat. She felt the rhythm of his steps, steady despite the chaos, each footfall a stubborn declaration, "Not today." Her mind flickered between fragments of memory, the day the war began, the faces of comrades lost, the bitter speeches of commanders. All of it seemed to crumble in the face of this single impossible act. A human soldier, carrying her away from death. "Why?" she whispered after a long silence. "Why are you doing this?" His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing at the horizon. "Because you're alive. And that's enough." She stared up at him, too tired to argue, too curious to stop trying. "That's a terrible military strategy." He smirked without looking down. "Lucky for you. I'm terrible at following strategy." Despite herself, she laughed again, softer this time, carried away on the smoke. For the first time since the war began, her chest felt a little lighter. Not safe, not healed, but lighter. Her body slumped, exhaustion finally dragging her under. But before darkness claimed her again, she let one thought linger. Once, she had closed her eyes ready to die. Now, she closed them wondering if, just maybe, waking up again would not be the worst thing in the universe. She woke to the sound of something crunching, an obnoxious, repetitive sound that felt entirely too loud for someone who had nearly died. Her ears twitched irritably before her eyes opened, and the first thing she saw was the soldier, sitting cross-legged a few paces away, casually chewing on some kind of ration bar that looked like it had been engineered by people with no joy in their souls. "You're alive," he said through a mouthful, crumbs clinging stubbornly to the corner of his lip. "Congratulations. You snore, by the way." Her voice rasped with equal parts disbelief and disdain. "I do not snore." "Sure," he said, raising his eyebrows. "Tell that to the flock of birds that evacuated the tree above us 2 hours ago." Her ears flattened against her head in irritation, though the faintest trace of relief flickered in her chest. She shifted, finding herself lying on a makeshift bedding of thermal fabric and bits of salvage. Pain lanced through her shoulder, but the wound was clean, wrapped with surprisingly neat bandages. "You bandaged me," she said slowly, suspiciously. "You're welcome," he replied, tossing the empty wrapper aside. "And for the record, your blood smells weird, kind of metallic, like someone spilled a battery." Her mouth twisted into something between offense and amusement. "You're not exactly roses yourself. More like stale engine grease." He laughed, leaning back on his hands. "Better than battery acid." She pushed herself up with effort, glaring at him despite the weakness still weighing her limbs. "You're insane. You know that. A soldier carrying the enemy off the battlefield, patching her up, feeding her. Do you have any idea what your people would do to you if they found out?" He shrugged, entirely too nonchalant for someone committing treason. "Probably shoot me. Court-martial first, if they're feeling generous. But hey, worth it. I'm already getting better conversation out of you than I ever did out of my squad." She blinked at him, startled into silence, before letting out an incredulous laugh that hurt her ribs. "Your squad must have been truly terrible." "Oh, they were," he said without hesitation. "One of them thought microwaving metal was a good idea. Nearly took out half our mess hall. Another one tried to shave with a plasma cutter. Don't ask me why." Her long ears perked despite her better judgment, curiosity outweighing pride. "And you? What was your great mistake that landed you with them?" His grin faltered just slightly. "Volunteering." The quiet stretched for a moment, the distant hum of war still lingering like static in the air. She studied him carefully, noting the way he fiddled with the buckle of his glove, a nervous habit he probably thought she hadn't noticed. He didn't look like the kind of human soldier she'd been taught to fear. He looked tired, stubborn, and irritatingly genuine. "Why?" she asked again, softer this time. "Why help me?" He met her gaze without flinching. "Because when I found you, you weren't a soldier. You were just someone about to die, and I couldn't let that happen." Her throat tightened against her will. She masked it with sarcasm. "Terrible logic. Saving me just means more paperwork for your people when I kill you later." He smirked. "Then I'll make sure to die in the most inconvenient way possible. Lots of forms. Maybe a song in my honor." Despite herself, she laughed again. It felt strange, almost dangerous, to find humor here, but the sound of it pushed back some of the lingering darkness inside her. He stood, brushing the dust from his armor. "We need to move. Patrols sweep through here every few hours, and I'd rather not explain why I'm having a picnic with the enemy." She raised an eyebrow. "You call this a picnic? No wine, no food worth chewing, and not even a blanket that isn't military issued." "Yeah," he admitted, grinning as he offered her his hand. "Worst date ever." Her ears flushed a faint shade darker, though she ignored it, pointedly refusing his hand as she pushed herself to her feet. Pain stabbed at her side, but she stood tall. "If this is your idea of courtship, your species is doomed." "Noted," he said cheerfully. "Next time, I'll bring flowers. Assuming we survive." Together, they started forward through the wreckage of machines and broken terrain. Above them, The sky still burned with the afterglow of battle, and in the distance, the low hum of drones echoed like restless insects. Every step was a risk, every shadow a possible threat, but neither of them moved in silence. Their banter, ridiculous as it was, became a shield of its own. "You walk too loud," she muttered as he crunched over broken metal. "And you complain too much," he shot back. Her ears twitched, a smile tugging at her lips despite the ache in her body. The war still raged beyond the horizon, and danger pressed close. But for the first time in far too long, she found herself thinking not of death, but of what came next. The wreckage stretched on for miles, twisted beams and shattered, plating catching the pale light of two moons. They moved carefully through the husks of machines, her steps uneven but stubborn, his steady stride slowed just enough to keep her beside him. The silence of the battlefield was broken only by the occasional crackle of sparking wires or the hollow groan of a broken ship collapsing into itself. "Your technology looks like it was designed by someone drunk," he remarked, tapping a piece of alien metal with the tip of his boot. It let out a faint, mournful hum, like a whale stranded in the air. She narrowed her eyes, ears twitching back. That was an advanced combat drone. It took 20 years to develop. "And it still lost to a rockslide," he said, grinning. Her lips curved despite herself. "Perhaps it was too advanced to handle your planet's primitive geography." "Yeah, the rocks are undefeated," he said solemnly. "Our most consistent army." They weaved deeper into the ruins, past consoles still blinking with fragmented messages, their screens showing bursts of alien script and static. She slowed at one, brushing her fingers across it. The characters shifted faintly, trying to stabilize. For a moment, a melody drifted out, soft, haunting, something that belonged in a lullaby. His brows furrowed. "Is your tech singing to us?" She tilted her head, listening. "It's a failsafe. When the system is too broken to communicate orders, it transmits comfort sounds to calm survivors." "Your machines sing lullabies," he muttered, shaking his head. "Meanwhile, ours explode if you look at them funny." "Maybe your people need more comfort," she said, her voice quieter, her ears dipping at the sound. The soldier stood there, awkwardly shifting, as though the song had reached somewhere he didn't want to admit. He broke the moment with a lopsided grin. "Well, I've been told I sing in my sleep. Not as good as your drones, though." She raised an eyebrow. "If I ever hear you sing, I might reconsider letting you live." He smirked. "Noted. I'll save it for special occasions." They pressed on until the ground sloped into a crater. At its center lay a massive engine core, half buried, glowing faintly blue with unstable energy. Sparks jumped across its surface, like restless lightning. He whistled low. "That looks like it's ready to blow us into next week." She crouched near it, scanning the energy waves with narrowed eyes. "It's damaged but still functional. If I can stabilize it, we could use it to mask our trail." He gave her a look. "Or we could use it to blast ourselves into tiny, glowing pieces." "Your lack of faith in alien engineering is insulting," she said, kneeling despite the pain in her shoulder. Her long ears angled sharply, catching the faint oscillation in the core's hum. "Hand me that panel." He hesitated, then picked up the broken slab of circuitry and passed it to her. "If this thing kills us, I'm haunting you." "You'll have to wait in line," she said dryly, fingers working with surprising steadiness as she connected shards of crystal conduits and rerouted energy. The hum deepened, steadier now, like a heartbeat returning to rhythm. He crouched beside her, watching with open curiosity. "You make it look easy." "That's because I know what I'm doing," she replied without looking up. "Show off," he muttered, though a smile tugged at his lips. When the core settled into a stable pulse, she leaned back, exhaling slowly. "There. It will scramble detection scans for a few hours." He slapped his armored knee. "Great. Now if only it made coffee, we'd be set." She smirked. "Your obsession with bitter drinks is baffling." "Coffee is sacred," he said with mock gravity. "It fuels our entire civilization. Wars have been fought over less." Her ears twitched in amusement. "Perhaps that explains your species' questionable decisions." He laughed, shaking his head. You know, for someone who almost died 2 days ago, you're pretty mouthy. And for someone committing treason, you're remarkably cheerful, she countered. They shared a look then, a fleeting moment of quiet honesty beneath the banter. Around them, the core pulsed like a beacon of borrowed time. A distant rumble broke the moment. He stiffened, scanning the horizon. Patrol. Coming fast. She rose, wincing but steady. Then we move. They darted into the shadows of broken hulls, slipping between twisted corridors of alien steel. The glow of drones approached, harsh beams cutting through the dust. Her hand brushed against his as they pressed close against a wall, the space barely enough for both. His armor was cold against her arm, his breath shallow beside her ear. Don't breathe so loud, she whispered. Don't have ears so big. He shot back, voice barely a murmur. Her ears flicked, betraying her suppressed laugh. The drones passed, beams sweeping just short of their hiding place, before vanishing into the distance. They waited a beat longer before exhaling in unison. That was close, he said. Too close, she agreed, though her smile betrayed her adrenaline. As they stepped back into the wreckage, she glanced at him. You should have left me. You know that. He met her gaze, unflinching. Not a chance. She shook her head, ears tilting, a laugh escaping before she could stop it. You're the worst soldier I've ever met. Best terrible soldier you'll ever meet, he corrected, grinning. And for the first time, she didn't argue. They walked until the ruins thinned into a stretch of uneven terrain littered with supply crates cracked open like eggs. Most were empty, but a few still carried rations sealed in bright foil. He tore one open, sniffed it, and made a face. Smells like wet socks, he said, offering it to her. She raised a brow. And you think this is edible? Edible is relative, he replied, taking a bite. He chewed slowly, grimaced, and forced a swallow. Yep, definitely socks. Her ears flicked with quiet amusement. My people at least flavor our rations. Flavor? I didn't know you were hiding luxuries like that. She smirked, taking one from a crate marked in her language. The wrapping hissed as it opened, releasing a faint, sweet scent. She broke off a piece and handed it to him. Try. Suspicion narrowed his eyes. You're not poisoning me, right? If I were, you deserve it. He took it anyway, biting cautiously. His expression shifted from wary to wide-eyed. That's actually good. Like fruit. Real fruit. She bit into her share, ears twitching with satisfaction. We thought soldiers deserved more than socks. He pretended to wipe away a tear. If humanity knew you had this, the war would have ended ages ago. Everyone would have surrendered for snacks. Perhaps that's the true path to peace, she said, half joking, half sincere. They ate in silence for a while, the kind that felt strangely comfortable. Around them, the hum of dormant machines vibrated faintly underfoot. He leaned back against a crate. You know, when I signed up, I didn't expect to end up playing hide-and-seek with an alien. And when I enlisted, she said dryly, I didn't expect to be carried around by a human who thinks socks are food. He chuckled, scratching the side of his helmet. Guess we're both a little off-script. Her ears twitched toward him, curiosity tugging despite herself. Why did you volunteer? You never said. He paused, gaze dropping. I thought it would matter. Thought I'd be part of something bigger than myself. Turns out most of it is just noise. Orders shouted by people who never stepped foot on the ground. She studied him, recognizing the weight beneath his words. And now you're committing treason for someone you should have left behind. He shrugged. Best decision I've made so far. Her lips curved, faint and unguarded. Terrible soldier. Best terrible soldier, he reminded, grinning. A faint vibration interrupted them. She froze, ears angling sharply. Hear that? He frowned, pressing a hand to the ground. The tremor grew, rhythmic, mechanical. That's not natural. They scrambled to higher ground, crouching behind a mound of wreckage. From the distance, a towering mech trudged into view, its legs groaning with the weight of its frame. One of hers, badly damaged, its movements jerky. Sparks spit from its shoulder cannon as its sensors swept the terrain. She inhaled sharply. It's on automatic. Broken, but still lethal. He glanced at her. Any chance you can sing it a lullaby too? Her lips twitched. Not without the right codes. It'll attack anything that moves. The mech stumbled closer, sensors whirring. He muttered under his breath. So basically a giant, angry toaster. She almost laughed despite the danger. A toaster that could vaporize you in seconds. Fine. An overachieving toaster. They ducked lower as its scanner swept over the wreckage. Her hand brushed his arm, steadying herself. We could overload its power core if we get close enough. Close enough looks like suicide, he whispered. She smirked faintly. Then don't get caught. Before he could argue, she slipped out from cover, moving low and fast. His jaw tightened, but he followed, muttering about reckless aliens. They reached the mech's shadow, its massive leg grinding into the dirt. She pulled a shard of crystal from her pouch, fitting it against an access panel. Sparks flared as she forced the mechanism open. He covered her, eyes flicking between the mech's scanning sensors and the horizon. Hurry up before it decides we're breakfast. Do your kind always compare everything to food? She asked, fingers flying across broken circuits. Some of us just have priorities, he said. The mech jolted, shuddering as its sensors locked onto movement further off. A flock of scavenger drones buzzed in the distance, drawing its fire. Blasts split the sky, giving them cover. She seized the moment, driving the shard into the core. Energy pulsed violently, the mech convulsing as lights across its frame flickered. He grabbed her hand, yanking her back as the machine collapsed, shaking the ground. The core's glow sputtered, then went dark. They lay sprawled in the dust, breaths ragged. He turned his head toward her. Remind me to never follow your plans again. Her ears tilted in amusement. But we're alive. Barely, he muttered. Then, after a pause, that was impressive, though. Her lips curved. Coming from you, I'll take that as high praise. He sat up, brushing dirt from his armor. You're going to get me killed. And yet, she said, rising to her feet, you keep following me. He sighed, half a laugh buried in it. Worst survival strategy ever. Best terrible soldier, she corrected, echoing his own words back at him. He groaned but smiled, and together they walked on, leaving the silent mech behind. The city ruins rose in the distance, jagged towers glowing faintly under the weight of orbiting warships. Patrol drones circled like restless birds, their beams sweeping the ground in rigid patterns. He crouched low behind a fractured wall, motioning her down beside him. Well, he whispered, this is either the stupidest idea I've ever had or the most heroic. Her ears twitched. Knowing you, probably both. He grinned. I'll take that as a compliment. They studied the glowing spire at the city's center, the relay hub. If they reached it, she could transmit a scramble signal to cloak their trail long enough to escape the sector. The problem: every soldier on both sides wanted the hub intact. Getting close without being turned into ash was nearly impossible. She tilted her head, assessing the patrol patterns. If we time it with the drone sweep, we can slip through. He eyed the drones, then her. You're suggesting we trust math under pressure? Her lips curved faintly. You trust worse things. Like your cooking. That's low, he muttered. I make excellent soup. You burned water, she said flatly. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then sighed. Fine. One time. They moved together through the debris, darting between shadows. At one point, a drone beam skimmed close, and they pressed against the same slab of stone, her ears brushing his cheek. He smirked, whispering, You're lucky I don't sneeze. She whispered back, You sneeze and I leave you. Their shared grin was brief, cut off by another sweep of light. They pressed on until they reached the spire's base, its surface humming with latent energy. Panels flickered, half damaged but alive. She laid her hands against the interface, ears angling as streams of alien code flared before her. Give me a moment, she said, fingers dancing over the panel. He stood guard, scanning the horizon. You've got 2 minutes before we have very angry company. I only need one, she murmured, eyes sharp with focus. The system resisted, sputtering against her inputs. Sweat beaded on her brow. He risked a glance back, watching her work, and for a moment he felt a strange awe. She wasn't just surviving. She was shaping the battlefield with nothing but will and knowledge. Finally, the console shuddered, releasing a pulse that rippled outward like invisible thunder. She exhaled, leaning back. It's done. Detection scrambled. We have a window. Perfect, he said, offering his hand. Let's get out of here before someone notices. She took it, steadying herself. But as they turned, the whine of engines cut through the air. A squad of human soldiers spilled into the plaza, rifles raised. His chest tightened. The leader barked, "Step away from her, Lieutenant. You're under arrest for treason." Her grip on his hand tightened. She whispered, "Go. Leave me." He shook his head. "Not happening." "You'll die for this," she hissed. "Worth it," he muttered. Then louder, to the squad, "You'll have to shoot through me." The soldiers hesitated, uneasy. Their orders were clear, but so was the image before them, one of their own standing in defense of the enemy. She felt her chest ache at the absurdity of it, at the ridiculous courage radiating off him. Before the standoff could shatter, another sound split the air, a sharp whistle, rising high. The damaged mech they had sabotaged stumbled into the plaza, system spasming. Its sensors locked on the squad, mistaking them for hostiles. Chaos erupted as the mech fired wildly, scattering soldiers. "Your friend followed us," he said, pulling her toward an escape corridor. "Remind me to thank it later," she shot back. They ran as the plaza burned behind them, weaving through collapsing structures until the city fell away into open terrain. The pulse from her signal still cloaked them, shielding them from scanners. For the first time in days, the horizon stretched wide and free. She slowed, gasping, ears twitching as she looked at him. "You threw away your life for me." He shrugged, though his eyes softened. It was never about throwing it away. It was about finally choosing what mattered. Her throat tightened. "And you chose me." He grinned crookedly. "Don't let it go to your head." For a long moment, they stood there, two soldiers from opposite worlds, bound by choices neither of them could have imagined making when the war began. She stepped closer, her voice lower. "When I closed my eyes on that battlefield, I thought I'd die alone. But you changed that. Whatever comes after this, thank you." His hand brushed hers. "Guess we're both off script now." Her laugh was soft, real. "Maybe that's better." The sky above was still scarred by war, but in the space between them, something new had taken root. Trust where none should exist. Hope where none had been allowed. They turned together, walking into the uncertain distance, their banter following like a shield. "You still snore," he said. "You still eat socks," she replied. And for the first time, neither of them felt the weight of the war pressing quite so heavily. The end.